Hello, everybody. Thank you very much. Hello, my name is Andy Driver. I am here from XR Games today. We are over in the corner over there. I'm here today to talk to you about jobs in the games industry and how to get them. To begin with, I just want to give you a bit of an intro to who we are as XR Games. So we are a multi-award-winning game development studio specialising in immersive VR games based in Leeds. That's a very long way of saying we make VR games. You would have seen it over there. We've gone through a huge amount of growth in the last year and a half or so. We are just under 100 people right now. We were 20 people 18 months ago. And we've won a load of awards and won Best Small Studio. So for most of you, you might be playing games, you might have played a lot of games, but you might not know much about actually what the games industry is. So today, I'm going to be here to tell you a little bit about actually what the games industry is first. A lot of people come to us and they go, I love playing games and I love to, I'd love to work in games. I play lots of games. And then there might be teachers, there might be parents, might be whoever say, that's not a real job. Right, that's just done by a bunch of sweaty blokes in a dungeon, right? So what I'm here today is to hopefully give you some ammo that says, no, actually this is a real job, this is a real career, there are people getting paid pretty good money to do this very well. So, to give you a headline at the beginning, so in 2021, revenue from video games industry was roughly around 180 billion. That is a huge number. There are currently estimated over 3 billion people that play video games on a weekly basis. Now, video games doesn't have to be your really hardcore Fortnite or any kind of hardcore kind of console stuff. It could be mobile games, it could be Candy Crush. It's all the same sphere. Over 3 billion people, that's almost half of the world. And also the UK is the leading market for game development in Europe. A lot of people also don't realise this. Across Europe, we have the biggest industry, we generate the most revenue, the most money. We are the biggest hub across Europe, and I think we're like 4th or 5th across the world as well. In the UK, over 30,000 people are employed in game studios in the UK. And it is by far the most lucrative form of entertainment that is developed in the UK, outselling music and film by a long way. So when you take the revenue generated by music and movies and you combine it, it doesn't generate as much as games does. It is a much bigger industry than you may initially think, and it is a really fruitful one too. Ooh. Spoiler alert. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to talk you through, I'm going to show you a video which is a really good representation of all of the different jobs that you might find when you make a video game, right? And so anyone here who's played a game, how often have you taken notice of the door in the game? So when you move from one room to the other, how long have you looked at the door? How long have you taken notice of it? It's a very famous thing in game design, right? The door problem. And this is a really good TikTok that shows you how much thought goes into making a door, right? So have a watch of this.
Yes, we definitely need doors in this city. I'll book time on the schedule for people to make doors. I wrote a doc explaining what we need doors to do. I made some gorgeous paintings out of this. This third painting is exactly the style doors we need. I took this painting of the door and turned it into an object in the living room. I made the door open and close. I made the sound the door creates when it opens and closes. I created a theme song for the door. When the door opens, the player will say, hey look, the door opened. I don't really care about this door until it can start wearing hats. This door asset now opens and closes based on proximity to the player. I put the door in my level locked. I've turned it to code marker. There is now an objective marker on the door. The player earns 148 XP for opening this door. I walked to the door, I ran to the door, I jumped at the door, died, reloaded, and then walked to the door. I found some people on Craigslist to go through the door. Fourth one, fourth one, in the upcoming patch. I didn't even notice it.
So that's a bit of an extreme example, but what I'm trying to get across to you is that making games isn't just for coders. It's not just for people who can sit and can write lines and lines of code. All of these different job roles are typical roles you'll find within a game studio, and they all have their place within making games. They're a lot more complex than you might think. Really, you can kind of roughly start to group these types of roles. So you've got game development, which is the people who are actually making the game. So these are the coders and the artists and the designers and so on and so forth. Community management, audio, sound, HR and recruitment, which is what I do. IT, marketing, PR, sales, legal, customer support, all of these types of roles are found within the games industry and within game studios. I haven't got time today to talk to you about all of them. What I'm really going to focus in on is this here, right? So this is the actual making of a video game. I'm going to talk to you very quickly about some of the key areas and how you end up doing it. So game development can be very roughly split into 3 areas. Now within this there will be lots and lots and lots of different roles, lots of different niches, but I'm being very broad here on purpose, okay? So generally you can cut that down into programming, art and design. Programming. So what is programming? Programming is the most technical job in the industry. This is your coders. These are the people who program the game. They are, yeah, there we go, responsible for coding the game and just making everything work. They implement game features, debug all the systems, optimize all the performance, and there are many, many, many different types of programming. You will have lots of different specialities, people who specialize in doing physics or AI or graphics or tools or gameplay, lots and lots of different types. How do you become one? Ultimately, you're really going to have a strong foundation in maths. That's really the real bottom kind of foundation when it comes to programming. So therefore, you're likely to have done pretty good in GCSEs, A-levels at stuff like maths, physics, computer science, that kind of thing. You'll probably also go on and study some sort of degree, so whether that's a games programming degree, a computer science degree, that's probably the kind of thing that you're going to look at. But the most important thing is getting used to just making games. So the best advice I can give anybody that wants to work in games is to just start doing it. Start doing it before anyone pays you to do it, because that is what you ultimately need, is that portfolio of work. You need something to show off, and it doesn't have to be very good. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if no one's downloaded it. It doesn't matter. What it does is it shows your commitment to wanting to make games and shows that, hey, this is what I want to do. I've already had a go at it. Now I want to get better at it. One thing to take note, coding for games is very different to coding for other industries. So when we say this portfolio, you get a lot of people who have been like data analysts or scientists or other kind of software engineers in other industries. And while technically, some of the skills might be the same in terms of coding, in terms of languages and that kind of thing, the jobs are very different. You're not creating bots or spreadsheets or automated stuff. A lot of times you are making something creative. You are making a product that someone has to play. You're making a game feature. So getting used to making games and building a portfolio of this example is exactly the kind of thing that we'd want to see. Artists. So art is the second biggest one. So as you can probably expect, these are responsible for creating all of the visual elements of the game. Everything you see has been made by an artist. This could be characters, environments, objects, weapons, vehicles, basically everything that you possibly see on the screen has been made by an artist. It is still very much a technical role. So it's not just I'm good at drawing, so I think I can go and do game art and I can make artwork for a game. There's a lot of technical stuff that goes into it. A lot of it is 3D modeling, a lot of it is making it work in a game engine, which is how games are made. You've got to make it digital. That's how games are made. It's not a traditional kind of art piece, but that's a good foundation. So how do you become one? You're going to need a portfolio. You're going to need a really good portfolio that shows that you can already do this, shows that you've made artwork for a game. It needs to be created using the right software and the right tools, displayed in game engines, like I said. So a game engine is the piece of software that a game is made on. So you need to be able to display your work within that game engine, show that it works. You've likely studied game art or an animation degree. Don't have to, but likely. That's probably the likely route. And leading up to that, you've probably done A-levels and GCSEs in stuff like art or animation or even computing and that kind of thing, and transitioned across. And then game design. So game design is responsible for designing every part of the game. So designing the levels, the story, all the mechanics. Why, when this happens, does this happen? Why do I need to do this before I can do this? Why does, why do all these things exist? Someone has designed all of that for you. So the person who's going to be a game designer needs to have an incredibly deep and wide understanding of video games. So you can't just be, I play a lot of Fortnite or I play a lot of FIFA. You need to have played lots of games, lots of different types of games, have a real broad understanding of how do people actually enjoy games, what actually engages with people, how do I make the player feel something. You're also probably going to have pretty good knowledge when it comes to programming and art as well. You're going to have pretty good foundational skills across everything. And a lot of people think that this is like, a lot of people think this is the way I want to get in. This is the area that I want to work in. This is, I've got a really good idea for a game or something like that. This is actually probably one of the most competitive areas in game development. It's really, really, really hard to get a job in game design. Really, really competitive. So how do you become one? So, once again, you've probably studied a degree, probably studied game design at uni. You've probably also done A-levels and GCSEs in stuff like computing, art, media, these kinds of things move pretty well into game design. Most importantly, you're going to have examples of games that you have designed. So, once again, you're going to have a portfolio of games. You're going to work with other people who can make those games for you, but you're going to be doing the underlying design aspects of it. So that could be in team-based game jams, solo projects, prototypes, that kind of thing. And that's all I have time for, I'm afraid. Thank you very much.
Wow, what an insight into the gaming industry. My eyes have been opened. Thank you, Andy, that was brilliant. So we'll welcome on some more people who work in the games industry, and we're going to have a bit of a chat, and you'll have an opportunity to ask some questions as well. So let's welcome them to the stage. Yeah.
You gonna come on? Oh, you don't have to work in the games industry. Later, okay.
And please do take a seat. Anyone who's out on the edges there, you're very welcome to take a seat. Sofa.
You gonna kick us off?
Yeah. So first, would you like to just say a couple of sentences about what you're up to, well, your name and what you're up to at the moment in your work?
Nice. Do you want to start, Andy, and then pass it down?
Sure. As I just mentioned, my name's Andy, in case you missed it. So I run recruitment for XR Games. That's my role. So I lead all of the recruitment, but previous to that, I used to run a non-profit which helps students and young people in general to get jobs in the games industry. So I've been very involved in that kind of stuff. But generally, yeah, I'm the one who's looking at CVs, portfolios, and trying to get people hired.
Hi, I'm Rob Reed. I work in the digital arts department at Leeds City College. We're sort of over there somewhere. So I run the level 3 provision, which means people who are leaving school come to us and do courses in, we call it game development, but it's a little bit of all the things that you've just been hearing about. So we sort of design courses to get people who've never really thought about the games industry to experience some of those job roles and get a taste of some of what they're good at, what they're bad at, and then hopefully go on to university from us, and then eventually go to you, I guess.
Hi, I'm Minnie. I am a junior concept artist at XR Games. I actually started working at XR Games about 4 years ago, but as a 3D animator. And I kind of, in my spare time, I realized art was where I wanted to be in my life. So I kind of trained myself up, and then kind of moved sideways within the company into a concept art role. And then, yeah, that's me.
Hello, I'm Hannah. Have been with XR for nearly a year now as a QA technician. I made my way in quite traditionally with doing a university degree. Mine was it was kind of a more niche topic in game studies, where it was a lot of actual design and narratives and psychology of games, and worked my way through QA and hoping to eventually work into programming, but I could preach about QA for so long because it's such an important part of development, and also it really is a role that allows you to interact with every department within games design. So I love QA so much. So.
Nice, thanks. So when was it that you actually realized that you wanted to have a creative job rather than just a simple old boring office job? Not that office jobs are necessarily boring, but when did you first realize you wanted to have a creative job?
Should we pass it along? I realized kind of typically, people growing up playing games as a kid. I originally wanted to go into film and TV, and then for me it was I played The Last of Us, and it was a really kind of monumental game for me because I played it and it had such an effect on me. I was like, wow, I want to make something like this that me as a player, I could make this for other people, and that was kind of what made me want to go into it as a job and create that experience for other people.
Pretty similar for me, actually. I played a lot of games growing up. I wasn't sure if I wanted to go into games or film. It just kind of happened. It just kind of, life just took me in that direction. But yeah, it was just when I realized that you can do these things for a job, I was like, well, that's what I want to do. That sounds wicked. Yeah.
I sort of fell sideways into the computer games bit. I was an English teacher in secondary school and I hated it, so eventually I went to teach film studies at Leeds City College, and then one day someone said, how would you like to teach games design? And I said, I have no idea how to teach game design, but I do like games and I love The Last of Us. And it turned out that was a thing that made most sense to me. After English literature was good but it wasn't there, film studies was great, and then I started teaching video games and I was like, yeah, this is it, this is great.
So I had one of those boring jobs for a long time. To be honest with you, I never really wanted to work in the creative industry. It was never something I longed to do. It wasn't something I grew up wanting to do. I did recruitment. I did recruitment for a long time. I worked in the tech industry, so I worked with a lot of really boring people. Recruiting people for banks and stuff like that. If any banks are here, sorry, but doing lots of boring stuff. And then eventually, once again, as you fell into the games industry, fell into recruiting for the games industry, turned out that the people that are involved in it just love it, and it's a really great place to be because you've got these amazing creative people when we get to give them an opportunity to kind of follow that kind of dream and make amazing things. So that's kind of what I fell into doing.
Nice. And was there a particular opportunity or a person or a mindset that helped you get into the gaming world and where you are now in your career?
I'm probably not the best person to ask. Probably not. I'd say because I never really intended to get in the first place. It was just something that kind of happened. But I found it to be the most important thing about the games industry is that it's so open and the people are so awesome that you find inspiring, really creative people all around you all the time. It's a really cool place to be.
Like I said, for me it was an accident as well, but I think the thing for me that made the most difference was just saying yes to it, even though I genuinely did not know what teaching games meant. And when I got the job and told my friends, they were like, that's not a job. That just sounds like you have made up an idea of what you'd like to do. And then I just taught myself. I just read books about it and went to talks like this and just sort of devoured it and just said yes every time someone said, would you like a go at this? And I'm rubbish at a lot of it. And I failed at a lot of it, but I had a go at most of it. And then it turns out there's enough you're good at that you go, yeah, I can bluff this for the rest of my career.
So for me, nothing in particular got me into inspired me or anything. But once I had joined XR, they were quite a small company. There was only about 12 of us, I think, at the time. It was quite like a family kind of situation. It was really nice. And then as the company grew and I grew and I realized I wanted to be a concept artist rather than an animator, I like reached out to those like core members that I'd formed such a strong bond with, and I was like, hey guys, like we're really tight, can we like sort something out? And they like supported me and like helped me to transition into this other role that I really wanted. So that was really great.
So I did games both at college and uni, so I kind of for a long time was surrounded by people doing similar things. So I wouldn't necessarily say there was like a particular opportunity, but I remember one thing significantly in university that we did as part of a module which I really enjoyed. Not entirely related to games, but there was one module where we had to basically design an escape room, and we had to plan it, we had to pitch it, and then we had to actually plan how the whole thing would work. And we had this whole thing about, you know, spinning how escape rooms worked, making it so that instead of being in a group, you were separated and you had to work from 2 separate rooms to work to solve a puzzle together. And I remember working on all of that. It was like such an eye-opener, like designing the whole thing, working with a team, like collaborating, like brainstorming all the time, and then actually getting to pitch it to like a whole kind of like this, like a whole group of people. And that was definitely a big opportunity for me as well that I think significantly stands out in my head. And it's just, as I say, I think surrounding yourself with people that have similar interests is another good thing that kind of helps you get into the industry as well.
Do any of the audience have any questions for the panel? Yeah?
Right. Andy? Yeah. You said like to get into it you have to do loads of like practice and like making your own games and stuff. But if you're not very like well informed in that subject, do you have any like recommendations to go on like online or like programs or something like that to get more experience and to like gain more knowledge in that sector?
Yep, for sure. We are very fortunate now that in 2022 there are a ton of resources out there if you look for them. You know, online there are organisations first of all. So there's a ton of non-profit organisations which are specifically designed to help people who want to work in the games industry. So they provide resources and advice, and they run schemes and you know, direct people in the right way and that kind of thing. There are also just a ton of communities on there which you can go and self-teach, go and self-learn. You know, if you're doing it outside of the traditional kind of, you know, education route of going to uni or something like that. The thing to remember with the games industry is that it is insanely competitive to get a job in. Insanely competitive. It's you know, I can't stress enough how hard it can be to get that first job. But so you do kind of have to be doing the job before you get it. That's just the nature of it, because you are competing against lots and lots of people who have got the same kind of skills. But fortunately, if you put the work in and go and look for it, there are a ton of help and resources out there, all pretty much for free and stuff as well. You know, you just have to go and look for it, really.
Nice, thanks, Andy. And any more questions? Yeah, one.
Yeah. Hello. So I'm a student who does music production, and I really want to do something with game audio. That's something that I want to do, but I've never had never had experience. But I've had the opportunity at uni that they're doing a module of game audio, so I took it on, and within the 2 months, I've had like the best time with it. And I'm in a similar position that I want to, after uni, because I'm in my 3rd year, I want to go and do an internship, and I don't really know how to go around that because 1, I haven't got a portfolio, and 2, I don't really have a great knowledge of game audio, so I don't know what direction I should go into. So
building a portfolio, so your portfolio is examples of your work, right? So building a portfolio which shows, you know, that shows that you can do it, it shows that you've done it, is necessary. Games audio is one of those roles, and there's a number of these roles in the games industry where they're very niche. They are, you know, you could take a handful of these roles and people assume that they're much bigger things than what they are. You know, and so what I mean by that is that there's not a huge amount of jobs going for it. To be fairly frank and honest, there's not. It's not like there's grand schemes for this, and it's not. They're hiring hundreds of people every year. They're just not, because there's just not a massive part of the game development process, and you don't need a very big team for it. So what you will probably need to do for that is probably look at kind of agencies and stuff. So a lot of studios will outsource that kind of work. So we don't have it in-house. We don't have someone doing sound design in-house employed by XR Games. That's not a role that exists. When we need that kind of work done, we outsource it to someone else, and they do it. And there'll be companies out there, and they will work with lots of different studios and lots of different games. So the best thing is to research them, but you're going to need to have examples. You're going to need to, and the best thing to do is just to do it. Just use whatever equipment you've got access to and that kind of thing, and just do it. But there's also look at stuff like YouTube. Look at communities on Discord or wherever else. There's going to be communities. Twitter is another one for the time being, but there's going to be loads and loads of communities and people out there who do this already that can probably give you much better advice than I can specifically about that.
Okay. Oh.
But don't give up.
Yes,
Don't
never give up.
Don't give up. So one piece of advice then, just to finish up this panel, what would be the one big piece of advice you'd give to people who are looking to get on and get into the games industry? And maybe we can start over on the other side.
My first bit of advice would be try to not put barriers up. Like, even say if you're going for a role that, though it is a fact that it's competitive, that doesn't mean it's impossible, it doesn't mean that it's hard to get in. It's kind of like, I can't describe it, but don't put up barriers that you'll never get in or it's too hard. And I think it's important to remember that everyone started somewhere and everyone started learning the basics. And there's always, everyone's got a different journey, but everyone has a journey where they started off learning the simple things. Like, for example, I know you mentioned about worrying that you don't know the right things or know enough. I'm in a position now where I'm teaching myself code again, because I learned it in college, but I kind of dropped off doing other more design interests. But I'm teaching myself again, and I've gone back to complete basics, and I feel silly because it's like, oh, I'm doing the most basic things. But it's important to learn the basics so that eventually when I get to the more complicated things, I'll understand so much better. So kind of just don't put barriers up for yourself and try to be as open-minded and willing to learn as you possibly can be throughout your whole career, basically. So, yeah.
I would recommend self-care. Look after yourselves, because you are the basis for your drive and your passion and everything. And if you don't have that foundation that's healthy and strong, then you can you lose the drive. Don't give up. If you're not looking after yourself, you kind of feel like maybe you do give up. So make sure you set time aside to eat healthy, do exercise. It's so important for mental health and stuff like that. Yeah.
Be the kind of person people want to work with. Be a decent person, be trustworthy, reliable, just be really nice, and to everybody you meet, because opportunities come all over the place. Plus, it's just good to be nice to people.
I kind of echo what Hannah was saying in terms of the journey. So focus on the journey a lot of the time. You are where you are now, and games is a dream industry and a dream job for lots of people. It's why it's so hard to get in. And you might have a dream job in your head, whether it's working at a certain studio, on a certain game, on a certain type of game, whatever. Chances are you probably won't get there first time, right? Let's just be frank and honest about it. But use that as your end point. That's where you want to be. So every bit of experience you have in terms of getting involved in making games, whether that's on your own, whether that's in uni, in college, in a game jam, then in a studio, and gradually building up experience and skills and knowledge to eventually get to whatever your end goal is. Treat your career like a journey and just recognise where you are right now, but you are still on that career journey. You're not off it. You're just at a certain point.
Going to take one comment or question here. Yeah.
My question is for Rob specifically, or for both of you really, just because a few times it's been mentioned that games design is a very competitive industry and an oversaturated industry as well. I've got a nephew who's really into games, and I just kind of want to know why people should still consider studying it. Why is it important to teach these skills, and also what do people learn on a course if they're going to, get into games?
Thanks for that. One of the things I love about teaching games is that students come in with that they love games, and that's probably the end of the thought process. And what they love about learning about the industry is just the sheer breadth of skills and disciplines that they can experience, and they're very transferable skills. So yeah, I know that I think I'm right in saying that every year more people graduate with games qualifications. Well, certainly a lot more than get jobs in the industry. But they're not the only jobs in the industry to get, because these people can become artists and programmers and storytellers and managers and all these problem solvers. And all these skills are useful whatever you're doing. So it's glorious to watch people grow into themselves. Because a fair few of our students, once they've tasted it, they go, actually maybe game design isn't the thing. But actually what I've learned here has told me the kind of things I am good at and the things I do love. I can't think of a subject that's better to teach you a massive range of creative skills than games. Is that fair? You said both of us, but I didn't do both of me.
Is that enough of an answer to your question? Thank you. Great. Folks, we've got to wrap this panel now. Thank you very much to all the panelists. Thanks very much to XR Games for presenting, and we'll see you at the top of the hour, at past, for our final presentation, which is with, remind me? Startup.